What's the most shady shit that you've seen working at a hagwon in Korea?
Keeping maybe students behind for the reason of profit and making sure there's enough people to fill a class and that kind of stuff. So
You've probably heard enough horror stories about teaching Korea. So let me get down to the parents. Then they're like, you've just child abused my kid. You hate my daughter. You're bullying my daughter.
Do you have any advice to like teachers that want to come to Korea, like what they should know?
You're gonna spend more than you make. Don't come here for the money, just know that.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be asking English teachers about teaching English in Korea and what their experience has been like. So please watch the video until the end to see what they say. What's it like teaching English in Korea?
it is interesting. Yeah, because I've done it in Spain and now I'm doing it in Korea. It's definitely more organized, I will say. Yeah, you don't have much flexibility in terms of being so creative. It's very by the book, at least where I work. So,
And overall, how has been your experience as like an English teacher here?
My time with the students is really good, but my overall outlook as a job is kind of bad. One of the main problems is like, I don't want to say management, but management. Oftentimes there are these hagwon directors that come in and they have no teaching experience. And I'm not going to say I have teaching experience because I know I don't, but I also know kids well enough to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. And sometimes these hagwon directors come in just for the money. They also don't understand the business of it. They're like money hungry, but they don't know how to make the money. They don't know how to keep the money. And then they also don't know how to do the teaching aspect of it. And then they have outrageous expectations of their employees.
I've had some problems with admin, but it's more problems with like my feelings less than it is with like the way the system is run.
Overall, like what are some of the positives about being an English teacher in Korea?
Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay, so the kids always, if you find that one kid that wants to learn, they will meet you where you're at. They will get excited and you'll make like really great relationships with them. And it's like the best thing ever once you like make that connection with a kid or with a class of kids or whatever it is, because you walk in that class and you're like, oh my God, I love you and you love me. We're gonna do great things. Oh my God.
It's really rewarding to see how excited they get to learn new things, to show how well they can communicate, especially as the year goes on and they get to tell you, their own interests, their own activities, because they've learned enough English to tell you that. And they're excited to share that, that feels really nice.
Teaching in Korea at hagwon, I think you get more freedom than working at like a public school where all the curriculum is provided. You can kind of change how you see fit most times, but it does really vary on each hagwon. So
What are some of the negatives of being an English teacher in Korea?
You are limited to what the school has you do. So if you have goals and aspirations about how your class is going to run or how you're going to teach, set those aside. The school has typically their own syllabus, their own curriculum, and they have their own way they want things taught. They will allow some, wiggle room for your own ideas. But, if you are concerned that maybe you can do something different, you're not. You're going to follow the school's teachings.
You've probably heard enough horror stories about teaching Korea. So let me get down to the parents. Parents are the worst.
What's bad about them?
A lot of parents are treating their children like they can do no wrong and that they're princes and princesses. But they treat them like they're the same level as teachers so that when there is a problem, they don't approach it correctly. And then the child's like, no, teacher, you're the dumb one. Your mom didn't teach you this. That's not my problem. So when I try to teach them, they're like, teacher, you're being mean. I'm like, I'm not being mean. This is something you should have learned when you were younger that your mom and dad didn't teach you. Like basic manners, my dude. Like with the parents then are like, why are you picking on my kid? Why are you picking on my kid? I'm like, I'm not picking on your kid. Your kid literally can't sit down. He can't be polite to anyone.
I think there's so much expectations of parents on how you should teach, and a lot of times I disagree on how Korean parents think the kids should be taught and how I think the kids should be taught. And there's a lot of like bureaucracy and politics that comes to that with wonjang directors and stuff like that.
Can you like elaborate on that? Like what are some examples that would happen in a hagwon?
Okay, for example, I'm teaching really young kids, so like first grade and second graders, and they're just starting to learn English. So you need a bit more like rhymes, more games to get them interested. Because first you need to be interested to actually like what you learn, being able to actually stay engaged, stay focused, and stuff like that. But my director sometimes don't let like if they're loud, the parents think they're not actually learning, so they want it to be more like strict, studious, so stuff like that.
I've worked at a Hagwon that was focused more on the students and their education, how well they achieve. And I've worked in another Hagwon that's more focused on the business side of things, getting that revenue, making the parents happy, even if the students aren't necessarily at that level.
So you think some Hagwons kind of like prioritize profit instead of the students' progress?
I would definitely say that. I've had some students that were struggling that I recommended being put in a little bit lower level class that would better suit them, not because I didn't think they were smart, but just because they weren't at that level yet, and I felt that they would excel much better. And because the parents are more focused on the prestige, and the school's more focused on making the money, those concerns were not addressed.
So I've seen some shady things here, I'd say, in terms of keeping maybe students behind for the reason of profit and making sure there's enough people to fill a class and that kind of stuff. So you hear about it, and it also creates a pressure for parents as well, because parents feel like they have to cough up a lot of money in order to keep their kids competitive.
Well, the for-profit education system is anywhere in the world, not even Korea. In the US, for-profit university, it's a problem because it's putting, number one, a price on education, but number two, it's putting a lot of pressure on the parents of the students to put pressure on the students, that put pressure on the teachers. Putting money in the mix of any education is a problem because no one is actually there for the value of education as much as they are for profit.
Do you feel like because Hagwons are so hungry for money, it's really hard to discipline kids as an English teacher?
Oh yeah, I had a problem last year, and it wasn't me reprimanding a student. It was just me making a comment on something. It was not read by the parent for months. And then when the parent decided to read it, it was taken out of context. This little girl started barking in my classroom, like during class time, like a dog. And I put in like this note, "Hi, we've asked so-and-so to please stop barking during class time. She can bark during playtime." And then that was it. The kid finally stopped barking. But then months later, the parent's like, "Why did you call my daughter a dog?" I was like, "I didn't call your daughter a dog. I said she's barking and I need her to stop doing that during class time because it's disruptive." And they're like, "You hate my daughter. You're bullying my daughter." And of course, my co-teacher had no common sense to be like on my side or translate the problem. So then it got even worse and worse and worse. And finally the mom was like, "We're just gonna move my kid because you're awful."
What's the most shady shit that you've seen working at a Hagwon in Korea?
At least for me, like, I had my employer try to tell me that there's things I wasn't allowed to do. So like I would like to, like I'd go out to have like a 30-minute dinner at the end of before the end of my shift. And they were telling me that I was violating like the rules and like we don't actually have that break. And I had to like pull out the whole book of Korean labor law and my work contract. And then eventually they told me, yeah, okay, you can continue going out to eat. And I was like, I knew that. So
What would you say are the main differences between like Korean education and American education?
I would say one of the big things is standardized testing. So in the States, we start standardized testing in 3rd grade. You do a yearly test, an EOG, end of grade test, 3rd grade through middle school. In middle school, you start what are called end of course exams when you have 2 separate semesters of education. That's what you do in high school as well. So like we train kids on standardized testing. Is that a good thing? Probably not, because it only benefits the kids who are good at testing, not so much good at learning. Whereas in Korea, you have them starting these test preparatory courses in middle school, and that leaves them stressed out of their minds because they're going, I don't know how to take a test well. I need to learn how to pass this test so that I can go to a good college, so that I can get a good degree. And when you put all of that pressure on testing later in the system, but you still have the same amount of pressure as we do in the States, it's unbalanced.
In Canada, I think compared to Korea, we are learned to have more creative thinking, more self-thinking, more outside of the box kind of thinking. While in Korea, you're kind of trained to take that big test when you turn 18, like SAT equivalent in Korea. So you're you learn how to take the test instead of like really just create critical thinking and stuff like that.
So it's more focused on memorization than like critical thinking.
Yeah, and I think the curriculum that the kids get, I think that's pretty evident from it.
I don't want to say discipline, but the parents usually take the teacher's side no matter what. Like if a parent calls home, they know that you did kind of mess up, like because they also understand the teachers are really busy. However, I know a lot of parents who are kind of crazy in America as well. They're like, my child can do no wrong. When children are disciplined in the US, they're actually disciplined. Like they're kicked out of school for a limited amount of time, or they have like detention. Like they're reprimanded. Whereas at private Hagwons here, you can't even give them a 2-minute timeout. No, because then they're like, you've just child abused my kid. I didn't even abuse your kid. I sent him outside the room for a second so I could come talk to him privately.
Do you have any advice to like teachers that want to come to Korea, like what they should know?
I think Hagwon can be very demanding, and unless you really love kids and unless you're willing to take all that bullshit, like make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, because a lot of people can't really do it. They don't love it.
So would you recommend like friends or foreigners to come to Korea and teach English?
I think Korea is a good mix of Western, wealthy and clean and stuff like that, but yet it's still very different to Canada, UK, America, stuff like that. So yeah, I think if you want to experience this type of culture, you should definitely come.
If you don't stand up for yourself, it's you could get taken advantage of pretty quickly. But on the other side of it, you could also get fired. So it's touchy.
Do you think English teachers in Korea, do they get paid well enough?
Oh, they get paid nothing. It's absolutely garbage. You should, if you're coming here to make money, do not do that. You're gonna spend more than you make. Don't come here for the money. Just know that.
As a foreigner living in Korea, like what do you think of the work culture here?
I think it's toxic.
How so?
Unless you're on like the administration or the management side, there's no support. There's like none. You got your own back. You know what I'm saying?
It's a tricky one for sure. It's excessive. It's quite a lot to take on, I would say, especially if it's your first year doing it or first day, you'll be surprised. And a lot of it has to do with the luck of who your coworkers are and who you meet initially.
Would you say that Koreans work too much?
Yeah, definitely. To a fault for sure, yeah. I mean, definitely does produce results, of course. I mean, the city, the infrastructure, the way, the metro system and all that, to be developed in the last, I don't know, is it 60, 70 years? It shows clearly. But yeah, it's definitely to a fault because I think it takes its toll on people. And then that shows in the drinking culture. It's work hard and party hard over here. People are much more conservative, I guess, with how they treat work. Depends, I guess, on the industry you're working in and all that as well. But at home, it's maybe more playful and more, it can be more relaxed. Whereas here, at least in my experience, it's much more serious, I'd say, right? And like, I know Koreans here where they pretty much are obligated to, if their superior invites them out, they must go out and drop anything else they're doing. So it's the work culture. Everything's tied back to the work culture. So
A bit harsh at times. I know that for Hagwons, it's not as bad as like the companies. You know, they work 50, 60 hours a week. But even still at Hagwons, there's an expectation to really, give your all to the company, sometimes more than the company has earned.
What do you think of like the English Hagwon culture here? Like how is it?
Well, okay, if you're thinking for the students, I do feel that sometimes they go to too many schools, too many Hagwons. I know that there was a law passed while I was working here that limited or stopped Hagwons from operating on Sundays to force parents to let kids have playtime. The big thing academically in the US is college. But here it's not just college. They have to apply for their high schools. Sometimes they have to apply for their middle schools, and if you don't get into a good middle school, you won't get in a good high school, and you won't get in a good university, and you won't get a job. So there's a lot of stress riding on these kids, because not only will it determine their own success, but there's still a culture here where children are expected to take care of their families, their parents, when they get older. So if they aren't able to get a good job, then their parents won't live well you know, they won't be able to kind of repay their parents, so to speak.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching my video all the way to the end. If you liked my video, please hit like and put in the comments down below any opinions you had on the video. And please check out some of my other videos, which you can see over here and in the sidebar down below. Thanks again. Bye.